In this section, we're going to look at how to get started with using Microsoft Excel. Now, the first thing is, how do you start Excel? Well, in this case, I've got a desktop icon. If you haven't got that, you go down here, click on this, and you have to scroll down to where it says Excel, and then click on it like so. And that's the Excel starting screen. Normally you click on where it says blank worksheet, and there you are, you can start using Excel. Now if I click over here to close this down, let's say you want to put a desktop icon on like this. It's very easy to do. What you do is you click here, scroll down to where you can see Microsoft Excel. You then press down the Control and Shift keys, and you keep them pressed down, and then you use the mouse button to click on Excel and drag over to here. Release the mouse button, then release the Control Shift keys, and click where it says Create Shortcuts here. In this case, you can see it's created a shortcut called XL2 because I already have one. So in this case, I don't want the second one. I'll click on it and delete it. So that's how you can create a desktop icon. There are other ways of making life easier for yourself. If you click down here and go to where it says Excel, if you right click, you can go to where it says Pin to Start, and if I click on that, as you can see, the Excel icon appears here. If I close this down and re-click on this, as you can see, it's now displayed there, so it's just easy, you don't have to scroll down to find it. Another way of making life easier for yourself is you could have Excel displayed down the bottom on this bar at the bottom. The way you do that is you click here, you go to where Excel is, so you move the mouse pointer over Excel. You don't click on it, you just move the mouse pointer. You then right click, go to where it says More, and if you click on where it says Pin to Taskbar, you can see it's now here. So this just makes life easier. It means you don't, every single time, you don't have to go down here and find Excel. It just makes life easier. Right, personally I prefer desktop icons. To start Excel, if you set up a desktop icon like this, you just simply double click on it, and there's Excel. Now don't worry about all these other things. They're what are called templates. If you don't see all these templates, it's probably because you're not connected to the internet. So to use Excel properly and take advantage of all its features these days, you need to use a computer that's connected to the internet. What you'd normally do is, once you've started Excel, you just simply click on where it says blank workbook. So I click on that and up comes Excel. Now the first thing you need to do is to understand the referencing system. So if I just click here at random, that is what's called cell D7. What that means is it's in column D and it's in row 7. If I click somewhere else, maybe here, that is cell G8, so it's in column G, row 8. If I click on the very first one here, that's in cell A1, so it's in column A, row 1. And wherever you click on the worksheet here, you will get a cell reference there, so this one is D11. Now if you want to enter some data, the first thing you have to do is click on a cell. So I'll click on this cell here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the word region, and then when I press return or enter key, look what happens. You drop down to the next line. I'm now going to type in some more words. So north, press the enter key. S-O-U-T-H, south, enter. East, enter. West, enter. So when you've typed in some data, numbers, text, doesn't matter, when you press the enter key, by default you drop down to the next line. What I'm going to do now is click on cell C3, this one here. Notice there's the reference. So it's column C, row 3. I'm going to type in the word sales and press enter. And now I'm going to type in some numbers. Press enter. 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 So now if I just click away from that, so I've just clicked over here, you've got some information here. So you've got region and then 4 different regions. Then you've got sales, which is the sales for each of these regions. Now if you look carefully, you can see there's different alignment for text and for numbers. So if I click on North here, you can see the text is aligned to the left. If I click on this cell here, cell C4, you can see that numbers are aligned to the right. If you think about it, that kind of makes sense. You can change that, of course, but by default, always remember that text is aligned to the left, numbers are aligned to the right. Now, what I'm going to do is to show you why Excel is just so good. I'm going to type in cell B8 here. I'm going to type in the word total and press return. What I want to do here is to sum all these numbers, to add all these numbers together. I could get a calculator out, but that's kind of defeating the whole purpose of Excel. So just to introduce you to the concept of functions, I've clicked on cell C8 here, and in cell C8 I wanted to add all of these numbers together. And look how incredibly easy this is. I just go to over here where it says auto sum. Now don't worry if this looks kind of complicated, you don't need to understand that at the moment, but it's using a function called sum, and it's going to sum up the cells from C4 to C7 inclusive. So C4 is this one, C7 is that one. Look what happens when I press return or press enter. There you are, it's magically added all those numbers up, and that's why you should use Excel, because it just makes your life so much easier. You don't need a calculator anymore to add things up or find averages or whatever you're trying to do. Now the other thing about Excel, it uses a certain amount of intelligence. So let's say I wanted to type in a date, like the 3rd of the 3rd, 2018. When I press return, it automatically formats that to a date. So there's a fair amount of intelligence built into Excel. It knows this number is not just an ordinary number, it knows it's a date. Because what I actually did was, I'll try it with something else like 4-4-2018. So I've got dashes there. When I press return, it formats it to this more conventional date format. Again, that can be changed, but just showing you that Excel will do a lot of work in the background and do it automatically. If I want to delete data instantly, like this one here, I can just simply select this cell, press the delete key, and it's gone. If I want to delete this, I click on it to select it. So always remember the golden rule in Windows. You select first, then manipulate. So I click on it to select it, and then I manipulate it by pressing the delete key, and now it's gone. You can, of course, use just normal formatting. So if I drag across those, now how did I do that? I clicked here, pressed the mouse button down and dragged across so that both cells were selected. If I want to make those bold, I just click it up here to make it bold. It's just like using Word or something. So similarly, if I wanted these words here to be bold, I could do that. Just like in Word, if I wanted those words to be bigger, I could select those and click here to make them bigger, like so. So all the usual formatting techniques you're probably familiar with, you can use those within Excel. Now, you can see by default this is called Book 1. So if you remember, what I did was I opened Excel, clicked on the empty worksheet template, and it created this book for us. So this is what's called a workbook. Now down here it says Sheet 1, so this is Worksheet 1. It's important to realize you can have multiple sheets within a workbook. It's a bit like a notepad, a physical notepad. You've got different pages, different sheets, and you can have different things on different sheets. So let's say on sheet 1 I want this information here. I could create another sheet, which is really easy to do. I would just click on this plus symbol here that says New Sheet, and you think, oh, it's gone, but it hasn't. I've just created a new sheet. If I click on sheet 1, there's my other information. Sheet 2 is here. So I could just type in something like my name, for instance, and press return. So now I've got two sheets in my workbook. The first sheet contains this little table of data. The second sheet contains my name. And if I want to, I could create more sheets. So I'll create a new sheet by clicking on here. And in this case, I'll just type in the company name, which is Cheltenham Group. Obviously, instead of just words, I could put data in here, but I'm just illustrating the principle that you can have multiple sheets within a workbook. So you've got this workbook currently called the default name, which is Book 1, and within the Book 1 workbook, you've now got 1, 2, 3 separate sheets. And you can carry on going as you wish. So for instance, let's say you've got data relating to months of the year. What you could have is sheet 1 with January, February, March, and so on and so forth. Now by default it's called Book 1, which is not a particularly useful name. You should always give your workbooks a useful name so that when you're trying to find data within the workbook later, you can just look at the file names and that will describe basically what the sheet is about. So the question is, how do I save this to my hard disk? Well, if I simply click on this icon here, I could go to Save, or failing that, I go to the File tab. So I'll do that again. I click on the File tab, and I could go to Save. Or if I wanted to use a different file name, I could use Save As. So I use the easy way, which is just clicking up here. So I want to go and save. Now, by default, it'll probably try and save it in your document subdirectory. If you click on the Browse button here, in this case, I can go to Documents, and within Documents, I've got a subdirectory I previously created called Excel 365 Foundation. So I double click on that. If I just simply clicked on Save, it would save it with the default name, which is Book 1. So instead of Book 1, I'm going to adjust that text to My First Workbook. So I've typed in the name My First Workbook. It's added an extension which you may or may not see, depending on how your system is set up. But it's worth noting that that is the default workbook extension. Click on Save, and now you'll notice up the top it's given it the file name My First Workbook, and that's been saved to your hard disk, and in this case it's been saved to a particular subdirectory or a particular folder. Now I'm going to close down Excel. I'll click on here, and then I'm going to restart. Now I want to open the workbook that I previously saved, and you can see it's over here. If it wasn't listed over here, I could click on where it says Open Other Workbooks, and from there what I'd have to do is to navigate to the subdirectory containing the file. So in this case it was in a subdirectory called Excel 365 Foundation, and there's a number of files in there that I've already copied in there, and there it is, it's My First Workbook. So I select it by clicking on it, then click on Open, and up it comes. Now at the moment I've just simply got one workbook open. If I go to File, Open, and then navigate to a folder containing my files, I could click on Browse here, and I could click on, in this case, Documents, and I would go to Excel 365 Foundation, and I can see lots and lots of other files here. So let's say I wanted to open some of these files. I could click on that one, and while I press the Control key down, I could click maybe somewhere else, like this one, and maybe this one, and maybe this one. So when I release the Control key, 1, 2, 3, 4 different files are selected. If I click on Open, they opened up. So I've now got more than one workbook open at the same time. If I move down here to the Excel icon, you can see if I just move over it, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different workbooks. And if I want to go to any particular one, maybe I want to go to this one here, I just simply click on that, and that switches to that one. It doesn't open it, we've already opened it. So as you can see, if we move down here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different workbooks open, and to go to any particular one, like maybe this one here, I would just click on it and it would switch to that one. Incidentally, a little trick is you can use Alt-Tab. So if you press Alt-Tab, and what I mean by that is, if I press down the Alt key and hold it down, and then repeatedly press the Tab key, you can see you can switch between open windows. Incidentally, these two windows here, you won't normally see these. These are just part of the recording program I'm using to display this on the screen. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different workbooks. If I wanted to go to the printing one, I would just keep pressing the Tab key while I've got the Alt key pressed down. And when I get to the one that says printing like that, I would release the Alt key, and that's the one you go to. Let's try that again. I press the Alt key down and hold it down. I'll press Tab. Let's say I want to go to the sorting one. At that point, I just simply release the Alt key, and then we go to the sorting workbook. You can see the name up there. Now in this case, I've got a workbook called Sorting. Quite clearly you can see the file name there. If you want to, you can save files with a different name. The way you do that is you click on File, Save As, not Save, but Save As. And at the moment it's called Sorting. I could call it something like Sorting V2, short for version 2, or I could call it anything I want. I could Sorting dash David Murray. Call it whatever you want. And when you click on Save, you'll notice it's now got a different file name. So the original is where it was, it's nice and safe, and I've got a second copy here, and that's been saved. Something else you can do incidentally is you can save files as a different type. So by default they'll be saved as standard Excel files, but if you go File, Save As, you'll notice that in this bit here where it says Excel Workbook, if you click on the down arrow, you can save as lots and lots of different formats. So for instance, you could save this file as a PDF file if you wanted to. I just simply click on that, click on Save, and as you can see, that's now been saved as a PDF file.